A Nuzlocke challenge is a fan-made rule set applied to a Pokemon game that effectively has only 3 rules. Name your Pokemon, you can only catch the first Pokemon you encounter on a route, and most importantly, once a Pokemon faints, it's gone forever. It's also commonly paired with a randomizer tool which completely rewards every Pokemon, both in the wilds and in trainers' teams. I've been interested in doing a Nuzlocke challenge forever now, and throughout the last year I played through multiple Pokemon games. I did a private playthrough of Pokemon Y, and played through the ROM hacks of Pokemon Crystal Clear and Alpha Red Super Mario Mon. One way or another I got a huge surge of interest in the Pokemon franchise, so I decided it was finally time to kill 2 birds with 1 stone and get this adventure of emotional, butt-clenching turmoil over with. So this year I did my first ever randomizer Nuzlocke challenge in a blind playthrough of the only generation I never touched, Pokemon Black. For starters, I had the choice between Bulbasaur, Oddish and Slakoth. In my mind they kinda reflected easy, medium and hard mode. Grass would have generally been a decent start, and Bulbasaur becomes quite a powerful guy later on. Oddish wouldn't have been nearly as strong and would have needed either of 2 stones to evolve later on, which wouldn't have been guaranteed to be available to me in the first place, and Slakoth is a meek little normal type. I knew its final evolution Slacking had the ability Truant, which meant it could only attack every other turn, but on every other turn it is quite the menace. Since I thought normal type was a nice neutral start and I was interested in having a one-hit monster ape eventually, I chose Slakoth. Jackoff the Slakoth. What I did not know however is that Slakoth also has the ability Truant, which, in a challenge where every move can mean win or lose, and I now could only do one of those every second turn, made the beginning a bit of a challenge. Come on, just fucking die. That was probably a mistake to take Slakoth. Should have taken Bulbasaur. Oh my god. After a very long battle against Bianca's Bulbasaur and Charon's Oddish, and absolutely destroying my room in the process, we quickly went on our merry way to route number 1. Luckily my first encounter in the game was a Kingdra. Oh! Oh no! Oh no! Oh no! Oh no! Which, after a mild state of disbelief, effectively became my first true starter Pokemon, due to actually being able to attack in every turn. I'm sure the run would have not lasted very long after this point had it been something noticed to be weaker. Dr. Draking the Kingdra was the second member of the team and probably what got this run started. In Accumulator Town I noticed that I also randomized the inventory of every secondary store clerk, so by absolute chance I got a root fossil, which I would eventually be able to turn into another Pokemon. After witnessing some fashionable gentlemen advocate for equality, I had my first fight with N, whose Vullaby almost gave me a run for my money, as I had nothing super effective against it and one of my Pokemon was a Slakoth, and for some reason none of my attacks were doing noticeable damage. The HP of my Pokemon slowly but surely went down by a threatening amount by this fury swiping baby menace. After managing to scrape by on the skin of our teeth I went on to Route 2. As a somewhat disappointing third team member I encountered a Zubat, which I suppose you can't even circumvent in a randomizer. I called him Bat because I wasn't sure he would stick around for long. I didn't want to put in the effort of giving him a more interesting name. I suppose that was Arceus' way to even out the fully evolved dragon Pokemon I got earlier. I went to the Dreamyard in the next city and got gifted a Rhyhorn, which was promptly named Nosy. And thus I faced the first gym leader with my team of 4 and fought against Chili, who had another Vullaby, but this time Dr. Draking had the chance to show what she can really do and made short work of it, and I promptly got my first gym badge. Further along I caught a Drifloon and lovingly named him Balloony. Just... Not Balloony! Wait, what type are you? Oh wait, Balloony was a ghost type, and Scrafty's a dark type. Oops. I had a Drifloon and got 4-headed Granidos. After battling my way through a random Pokemon breeder who just happened to have both an Articuno and a goddamn Zekrom by using Yawn at any chance I got, I filled up my team with a Vespiquen named Oh Shit It, which was funny in my head. But other than that it actually proved quite useful as an actually decent flying type and general grass-one repellent. For the first evolution my starter Jackoff the Slakoth evolved into Vigoroth, and was finally able to properly participate in fights by actually being able to do things on the subsequent turns. With my quickly empowering team, Gym number 2, Lenora and the Superior could not even try to stand in my way. To add insult to injury, they also got robbed by the equality activists from earlier, but I'm sure it's nothing to worry about. To this point, Nosy the Rhyhorn and Forehead the Cranidos never really learned anything noteworthy, nor saved the day in any particular battle. Both never even learned stab moves, and their normal attacks never really were that powerful. At one point I got a Giga Lift named Rocky, which had to be put into the PC at the time, but was immediately considered as Nosy or Forehead's replacement once one of them inevitably bites the grass. Rocco is good for if Forehead or Nosy ever bite the dust. Not even 2 minutes later, Nosy unnecessarily died to me stubbornly trying but failing to flee from a world Verizon. The last thing Nosy ever heard me say was me calling it the name of its would-be replacement. Well. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. Rocky, no. Which goes to show how much I actually cared about him. Throughout the whole run you may notice that I barely had any type coverage. Most of my Pokemon were very boring types, something like Water, Rock, Flying or Normal, with barely some secondary typings mixed in between, which all in all was less than ideal. I would have given so many Nosies for just one Fire or Grass type in my team. After walking across a big bridge and walking into the big city, I made my way to Burke, the third gym leader, who casually also had a Zekrom. Really? Another one? I don't even have my Rhyhorn anymore. And a Rayquaza, but at least that's original. Rocky, my beloved tank, was easily able to overpower his entire team, and I got my third gym badge and got the fuck out of there. In the desert, an area continuously in a sandstorm, Zubat eventually was my only choice in a fight against a Giratina. The only dark thing we have is this guy's bite. Use him. That might work. Probably will do more damage to him than I will do to him with my Zubat. Aha! Okay, no, didn't, but still. Oh my god, if the Zubat will kill Giratina. Come on. Ugh. Oh. Come on. Come on. Ah. No balls. Come on. Come on. Oh, oh no. No, the sandstorm. No, the sandstorm. No. Oh. Oh, yes. Yes. Oh. Switch Pokemon. Get the fuck out of here, Zubat. But against all misconception towards this poor species, it clutched the hell out of the literal devil with 2 HP. Received a level up and survived the sandstorm with 1 HP. I have to say, Bet the Zubat received my ever-loving respect from then on and deserved its evolution into a Golbat. But sadly, Bet the Golbat did not have much time to shine since in the very next Pokemon battle, you I guess. Let's take a look at Golbat. Wow. Oh, beautiful new Bet guy. Wing attack. Golbat evolves with Love to the Train. It received another level up and immediately evolved into Bet the Crobat and actually finally became useful for good. He loves me a lot. Let's go. I went back to the museum and revived the 3 fossils I had gathered at randomized shops to this point. I received a Shallows, another water ground type, whom I accidentally named Gar, a Latios named Latios, which I considered a last resort, and another Drifloon, Balloony II. I arrived in Nimbasa City and went on a Ferris wheel with N, who explained to me... Are we on a date? What's happening? Hello? What? Is this because I'm emulating this game? Is Nintendo punishing me? There's some anti-piracy stuff? Man, I'd really wish I know what he's saying here. The last trainer before the 4th gym leader just casually threw an Arceus in. Since I had nothing in particular against normal types, I kept Forehead in. Time to literally take down God. Oh, Jesus Christ. Oh. But after a devastating use of Earth Power, it finally fainted and got replaced by Ball the Electrode. Got flipped upside down, bitch. Yo! Your Ball evolved into Electrode! Which finally allowed me to actually use an interesting type for once. A random encounter on Route 5 was a Darkrai. Oh! God. Okay. Stay inside of the fucking ball. Yeah, okay. Is it disabled forever now? I have to switch him. No! No! Gym leader number 5, Clay, had a Mewtwo. My best shot against a psychic type was my Vespiquen Queen. The battle went decently. I used Toxin just to make sure that it will die eventually. One text box I naively skipped through at the beginning of the battle was that Mewtwo used Future Sight, which is a pretty powerful attack that only strikes 2 rounds later. I had not registered this and my Vespiquen got hit by Future Sight but already low on HP. Maybe I should actually use Toxic for once. Oof. Okay, Toxic. Just to make sure that it will die eventually. Toxic is a poison that gets stronger every... No, Future Sight! And thus my beautiful Vespiquen sadly went to eternal rest and got replaced by Lucario. Inside of the Chargestone Cave I encountered a Wobbuffet. I know that Wobbuffet's whole gimmick is countering or deflecting physical and special type moves. What I didn't know is that apparently it's also a user of Destiny Bond, which is used in the same turn that I gave it the finishing blow. No, 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 not like this, not Destiny Bond. No, 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 Rocky, please. No! And thus, my faithful Rocky was taken away from me. Rocky was replaced by Balloony II to redeem its fallen ancestor and show the world what Drifloon can do. Balloony II quickly did what Balloony I never could and evolved into a Drifloon. Oh, also Lucario died on the way and got replaced with Gardevoir Lelos, now Gastrodon. At this point, Electrode wanted to learn Self-Destruct, which in terms of this challenge is not exactly the best attack to have in your moveset, and I decided to allow Ball to learn it anyway. Somehow I knew it would become useful at some point.
That's a surprise tool that can help us later.
Somehow Vigoroth survived long enough to become a Slacking, and became the absolute beast that its attack set lets on. It was able to one-shot basically any basic Pokemon and I came to love him very much. But because of its ability to truant also returning, it was more of a break glass in the case of emergency Pokemon. Skylar, the 6th gym leader, had a Groudon of all things, which is basically the antithesis of the flying type, and seemed to have something against all of my Pokemon. But the tried and true tactic of using Chekhov's yawn and hitting it while it is asleep would have worked out fine, except that Groudon used rest of all things and fell asleep anyway, so I was able to hit him enough times to kill him regardless. Oh, that does decent damage. As asleep. Die, Groudon. Oh god. Just rest. Bro. God. Oh, yes, a critical hit. Let's go. Die. Yippee. Let's go. I made my way through a variety of Pokemon and arrived in Icarus City, where I purchased a quite expensive TM of Thunder for Ball to learn, and also finished gym number 7, which didn't give me much trouble except for a reasonably tanky Dusclops. I've been told that the Freedom Rides group we keep running into was having a meetup inside of the Dragon Spiral Tower, where we also encountered our old buddy Zekrom, who became friends with our other buddy N. I was also handed the Light Stone, which supposedly turns into Reshiram once it recognizes me as the chosen one. And thus I made my way to gym number 8. Okay. Wow. Okay. Ball. Make me proud. Yippee. At least the other legendary. And he's level 45 now. Okay. Yippee! Whereupon defeating Drayden's last Pokemon, Articuno, I officially had every badge in the Unova region and was able to enter the Pokemon League. I trained my Pokemon until level 48 on Victory Road and entered the point of no return. The first elite I fought was Chantal, and after a slow start with a Wingull, I quickly got blindsided by a Sigilyph, who did more damage to various team members than I would have liked, but I overcame it without much trouble and already moved on to the second elite. Elite number 2 was Grimsley, who amped up the intimidation factor by quite a bit by starting with a Tyranitar. But Jackov tanking it and putting it to sleep made it go just as quickly. Marshall, elite number 3, became even more menacing by immediately sending out a Groudon, which was still a huge threat to my team as it easily could have two-shot every Pokemon in my party. But Jackov again put the enemy to sleep and thus made it easy to ring out with a few water attacks from Dr. Draking. Okay, as long as you're asleep. Okay. Groudon is gone. Afterwards, Marshall decided to stab me in the feelings and threw in a Megalith, but my ever so loyal Dr. Draking also took it and is finding one Moltres out easily enough while I was falling in the corner somewhere. That's what I had. You bitch stole one of my Pokemon that was taken by a fucking Wobbuffet. And Surf? Okay, that was a critical hit, but that's okay. And die, Die, creature. Yippee! Whew! Okay, I've gotta say the Elite Four, they're a bit more difficult. The final Elite Four member, Caitlyn, was the pinnacle of menace. She started with an Excelgor, which I wasn't really worried about, but after it started to fight with U-turn and switched with a Deoxys, I got ever so slightly more worried, as I didn't have too many options against Psychic, apart from Balloony II, whom I promptly sent out to deal with it. This, of course, skipped my turn and initiated the shitshow that was this particular fight. Deoxys' favorite attack was obviously Psychic, which did more damage to my Pokemon than I would have liked. Even my tankiest guy Jackov was damaged exactly by half of its total HP. That's exactly half! Which meant he even couldn't properly attack it without risking to faint. I started to panic and started switching through some of my Pokemon in hopes that I found one that could withstand it, but we've come so. Dr. Draking, the first Pokemon I catched, got hit by a critical hit and fainted. The only option I could think of was to send back Balloony II and hope it hits an ominous wind. That I hoped it's going to die as well. But of course it got outsped and fainted as well. Bat was the next one to face the creature from outer space, as I hoped its Bite attack, while neither super strong nor stab, might at least deal any kind of damage to it, but it as well got one-shotted by Psychic. The only thing I could think to do now was finally do what I've been wanting to do for ages now and finally use Self-Destruct, in hopes to save whatever was left of this run. Break glass in case of emergency. Now it uses something else. Which of course led to Electrode fainting and Deoxys being lowered to its lower third of HP. I sent in Jacko for lack of options, and the combination of his Rocky Helmet and Chip Away gave Deoxys the rest. We just lost 4 Pokemon. What? Oh Yeah, well, what I didn't account for is Exolgor using a grass type attack, which is 4 times effective against Scar I had out in a moment. I think I was still processing the 4 other deaths I just witnessed. And so it was that me and Jack of the Slacking, my starter Pokemon of all things, was the only one left standing, which considering its raw strength wasn't the worst, but considering its ability also was far from ideal. But after a long and toiling fight I defeated all Elite 4 members and had my Jack of the show for it. After going to Alder, the champion, who just lost his battle with N and Team Plasma's castle rising out of the ground like fucking Palpatine's Star Destroyer fleet, I gracefully received the opportunity to access my boxes. Even though my boxes were filled to the brim with decent Pokemon I could have taken with me, I did not see the point in this as all of them were at least 20 levels below the current level cap. In retrospect, I probably should have filled out my team to get free turns healing my Slacking, but I think I was a bit too preoccupied with being quite sure that the run was over. What I only came to realize now is that we also had our encounter with Reshiram still ahead of us, although I'm reasonably sure that it just reacted to Zekrom's presence, but alright. Before the final boss fight I was granted one more catch against the randomized Reshiram, which turned out to be a Croconaw. I added it to my team and went to the climactic fight with N. Yep. I would like to see what Croconaw's is. Okay, Muk. Can we handle a Muk? Oh, he's. Why are you at the front? What the fuck? Chip away, slash, switch, square. What moveset is this? Why don't you have a water attack? To my shock, Croconaw also only had normal type attacks and no water type moves, so if any of the Pokemon was a ghost type, I was going to be in huge trouble. N started with a Muk, which took much stronger to take down than I expected, but after defeating it, Bronzong, Aerodactyl, Lopunny and Farfetch'd, I actually won with Jack of the Slacking and Croconaw. And the relief and disbelief I felt by winning the challenge after was out of this world. The disbelief I felt when I realized that N isn't the final boss of Pokemon Black was not to be measured, because suddenly Ghetsis shows up, talked shit to N and initiated another fight with me as the true final boss. Okay, we'll just have to do the same thing that I just did. Thought I won. Kakuna. 52 Kakuna. Sword dance, that's scary. Okay. Yeah, well, you were just... I was just waiting for that to happen. Okay. Oop. I can't do anything. Okay. Rocky Helmet. GP. Croconaw quickly died to a Liviani, so it was me and my Slacking versus Ghetsis' entire team. Luckily, the Nuzlocke god smiled upon me and gave Ghetsis a Kakuna, Charm, Bonsly, and Beldum, which were all Pokemon Jackov could make short work of. His final Pokemon, and thus the final Pokemon of the Pokemon Black Randomizer Nuzlocke Challenge, was a Mandibuzz, a Pokemon that so long ago brought Jackov to its absolute limits. But now, Jack of the Slacking is stronger, faster, better than any Mandibuzz could possibly be. That's a bit of a scary attack. What is going on here? I don't know. What? Embargo? No. No. Don't be a critical hit. I can use items again. Whee! That was almost a bit of a heart attack moment there, but... And thus I finally did it. Pokemon Black Randomizer Nuzlocke Challenge complete. Even if my throne was spilled upon the corpses of the Pokemon I love most. Team Plasma's plans were stopped because I beat Ghetsis in a Pokemon battle, and flies off on Zekrom even though the whole thing with the castle should definitely be counted as some kind of terrorist attack. And I was finally the champ of the... Wait a minute. I never became the champ!